Imagine waking up one day in a second body. Previous day, you're the guy who gets bullied, kicked around, and humiliated. The next day, you're in a body so perfect that every girl tries to sleep with you. Sounds like a dream, right? Well, that's what happens to Daniel Park, a bullied kid who's about to get the chance of a lifetime, literally. But can this new power help him escape his past, or will it only drag him deeper into the chaos? The story begins with a bully named Logan Lee smoking with a girl in the school washroom. He told our protagonist, Daniel Park, to use his fat body to stop any teacher who heads to the washroom. While Daniel was frozen in fear and was too scared to say anything, but Logan became angry when Daniel didn't respond, so he kicked Daniel in the face and punished him by making him imitate Pikachu. Later in class, Logan showed off his gum-gum pistol move by punching Daniel in the belly, making it tough for him to breathe. Logan this time ordered him to imitate Pikachu's Thunderbolt. Then, Logan's friend asked if he could borrow Daniel to deliver flowers to his girlfriend for their 100th day anniversary. To which, Daniel had to crawl like Pikachu to give flowers to the girl. But while imitating Pikachu's Thunderbolt, he accidentally farted in front of her. She got very angry but also felt sorry and promised not to tell her boyfriend if Daniel stayed away from her. Daniel was relieved but became even more embarrassed as he was actually thankful for her pity. That night, Daniel also got upset with his mom for putting eggs in his ramen because he thought he was gaining weight because of it. He then asked her to transfer him to a different school because he wanted to start fresh, but his mom refused since they were struggling with money. Frustrated, Daniel punched the wall and yelled that their financial problems weren't his fault. Her mom got worried. So, next day, Daniel's mom went to school and asked the teacher about school transfer, but the teacher said it would be hard with Daniel's low grades. Meanwhile, at the football court, Logan made a $10 bet with May Kim from the soccer team that he could hit Daniel's head with the ball. But when Logan kicked the ball, Daniel got afraid and dodged. Then, May Kim got his turn and kicked the ball, and it hit Daniel's face, breaking his glasses. But instead of worrying about his glasses, Daniel was scared of Logan for making him lose his bet. Daniel offered to give him $10, which made Logan even angrier, and he started beating Daniel for taking pity on him. Daniel's mom saw everything and ran towards them, while also yelling at Logan for hurting her son. Logan tried to cover, saying it was just a game, but Daniel's mom shouted, asking how beating someone could be a game. She kept hitting Logan and threatened to go to the principal's office. Daniel was embarrassed because other students were whispering that he called his mom for help. He tried to stop her, but when she didn't listen, he cursed at her for the first time in his life, with saying she was embarrassing him. Everyone went silent for a moment. Daniel apologized to Logan and told his mom to leave. Late at night, Daniel was outside his house and saw that the lights were still on. He didn't want to go inside, but he was very hungry, so he went in slowly. When he opened the door, his mom was waiting and asked if they could talk. Daniel felt awkward, thinking she would be upset about what happened at school. But instead, she calmly told him that she arranged for him to transfer to a school in Seoul. She said it was more important for him to succeed in school than staying with the bullies. She also mentioned she couldn't move with him because of her job, but promised to send money to support him. Daniel had always wanted a fresh start, but now he felt sad about leaving his mom alone. He started crying, and his mom comforted him. The next day was bright and sunny, just like Daniel's hopes. He promised his mom he would take care of himself and study hard. On the way to Seoul, he thought about his new start. Even though the new school wasn't the best, he was still happy because he could finally live his life. He had to live in an old small house on a mountain, but he didn't mind. The next day, he went to get a new haircut. The barber showed him some styles and promised to do his best. After a few minutes, Daniel looked in the mirror and didn't even recognize himself. He looked so cool with his new haircut. Even though Daniel was still short and chubby, he thought people were staring at him because he looked great. On the sidewalk, he started pretending to be a boxer in a mirror. A girl saw him and thought he was a psycho, but Daniel tried to stay confident and tried to impress her with a manly smile. But her boyfriend Zach showed up. Zach didn't like how Daniel was smiling at his girlfriend and wanted to fight him, but the girl stopped him. Zach told Daniel to never show his face again and went with his girlfriend. Daniel was relieved he didn't get into a fight, but then he thought, if I don't stand up for myself now, how will I ever change? So he followed and stopped Zach and his girlfriend, trying to explain, and even asked them to have coffee with him. Zach got really angry that Daniel showed his face again and started punching Daniel. People gathered around and recorded the fight. Daniel didn't understand what he did wrong. He just wanted to make some friends. At night, in his small, messy room, Daniel saw videos of Zach beating him up all over the internet. He felt terrible, like all his hopes of starting a new life were gone. The bullying and insults were back in his life, and he had no friends. Feeling alone, he cried himself to sleep. When Daniel woke up to go to the bathroom, the ceiling and sink seemed lower than usual, and when he looked in the mirror, he saw himself as a perfect-looking boy. Shocked and scared, he panicked and rushed out of the bathroom. But then he saw something surprising. His old body was still sleeping on the floor. Daniel was so shocked that he couldn't make sense of anything. He searched online for anything about body swapping, but found nothing. The sight of his old body lying deeply asleep on the floor made him even more scared. He thought about calling 911, but got worried that it might make things worse. Calling his mom didn't seem like a good idea either. The only one who might help was his old body, so he decided to try waking it up. He started by gently shaking it, but when that didn't work, he panicked and slapped it hard, hoping for a response. Suddenly, Daniel's eyes opened and he looked at his hands. They were chubby. He thought, oh, everything before was just a dream. Even though it was strange, it felt so real. He stood up to go to the bathroom again, but to his surprise, that perfect muscular body was lying on the floor next to him. A wave of fear washed over Daniel. He tried waking up the perfect body, this time more roughly. After a few seconds, he suddenly woke up in the new body, and now his chubby, short body was the one sleeping next to him. He kept switching back and forth all night and finally realized that he could change bodies. If he fell asleep in one body, he would wake up in the other. Daniel spent his remaining vacation getting used to this body-swapping ability. He learned 4 important things. The sleeping body could never wake up on its own. If he forced the sleeping body awake, his current body would immediately fall asleep. The sleeping body still felt hunger and needed to go to the bathroom because it was alive. Whenever he swapped, the body that was sleeping felt very hungry since it had been sleeping for 15 to 20 hours straight. He decided that swapping every 12 hours was best to keep both bodies healthy. His consciousness was active 24/7. Every time he swapped bodies, he felt refreshed and full of energy. This strange new ability opened up a whole new world for Daniel. Time flew by, and soon it was the day Daniel had to go to his new school. At school, when the girls saw a boy named Bayom from the music department entering the school, they started whispering that he looks even cuter with his newly dyed hair, but they still agreed that Eli Jung from the beauty department is the cutest. Suddenly, their attention shifted when a tall boy accidentally bumped into Bayom, and the girls immediately fell in love with him. Everyone was shocked to see this model-like boy who seemed perfect in every way. That boy was Daniel in his new body. Daniel was so scared of getting bullied again at this new school that he bought a uniform to fit his new muscular body. Even though he looked confident and strong on the outside, Daniel was still very afraid inside, hoping that no one would bully him there. In class, a group of bullies were making a skinny boy fan them with a hand fan. Just then, the teacher walked in and introduced the new transfer student. Daniel felt a bit nervous, but introduced himself to the class and took a seat at an empty table. He hoped to make friends with whoever sat next to him. He looked to his right smiling, only to find Zach, the boy who had beaten him up on his first day in Seoul. Daniel was like dead and suddenly turned back to his table. A girl named Zoe dropped her skirt and introduced herself to Daniel, saying there was something on his face. Everyone was confused as they couldn't see anything wrong. Then Zoe added, "Your face has handsomeness." Daniel's cheeks turned red. It was the first time a girl had flirted with him. Zach was annoyed by Zoe's childish behavior and told her to sit down. But to Zach's surprise, his girlfriend Mira was also looking at Daniel, which made Zach feel even more insecure around Daniel. Later, at lunch break, Daniel was thrilled that he didn't have to serve anyone anymore, because he always did this in his old school. He carried his lunch tray to a table and started eating, but soon noticed that everyone around him was whispering about his impressive physique. Zach's friends approached his table and asked him to see them after lunch. Daniel got afraid, but gathered the courage and went to meet the bullies after lunch. He found them waiting in the lobby. He felt even more nervous, Because of his other body experience, he knew this was a familiar setup where he might get beaten up. One of Zach's friends said that Daniel had a great body, so he must know many girls, while offering him a pack of cigarettes. Daniel got worried that if he said he didn't smoke, they might think he was a nerd. He thought for a moment and then declined the cigarettes, saying he had quit smoking a long time ago and also didn't know any girls. As Daniel left the lobby, he felt relieved, thinking he had avoided trouble. In class, Zoe tried talking to Daniel again, but he had fallen asleep. Back at his shabby room, Daniel woke up in his chubby body. He was shocked and panicked, realizing that his new body must have fallen asleep. He tried to sleep again, but he couldn't, because he had already slept all day. He panicked because sleeping was his only way to swap bodies. At school, Zoe was trying to wake Daniel. She suddenly forced him to wake up and then got a jump scare, and Daniel found himself back in his new body and realized that Zoe was the one who helped him wake up from his nap. After school, Daniel saw a job offer outside a convenience store. Looking strong and charming, he walked in and asked the owner if they are still hiring. The owner got impressed by Daniel's good looks and offered him a chance to start right away, and even said he could choose his own salary. Daniel knew the owner was interested in him because of his attractive appearance, but he said that he needed this job for his friend. The owner was a bit disappointed, but allowed him. Later that night, Daniel in his old body came to the store. The owner was shocked and didn't want to hire him. He made up an excuse that school kids don't know much about cigarette brands, but Daniel impressed him by naming every brand on the shelf as he bought cigarettes for bullies in his old school. The owner decided to hire him, but warned that his pay would be low. Daniel started his job anyway, as he had to take care of two bodies now, one that was awake all day and went to school, and the other body that was awake at night and now started working in the store. There, Daniel was worrying about what would happen if his other body disappeared. His happy life would end. Meanwhile, three boys walked into the store. To Daniel's surprise, they were Zach's friends. He felt scared. One of the boys asked for cigarettes, but Daniel knew he couldn't sell cigarettes to someone still in school. So he asked them for ID, and they showed a fake one. But Daniel refused it. When Zach saw it was Daniel, he remembered him from the first time they met. Zach smirked and told the boys to grab some alcohol too. Zach told Daniel to forgive and forget, but then, with anger, he said he wouldn't pay for anything he bought. Meanwhile, the other boys whispered that Zach was in a bad mood because Mira had eyes on the transfer boy at school. On hearing that, Zach suddenly got more angry and took his frustration out on Daniel, and Daniel got beaten up again. The other bullies took naked pictures and videos of him and threatened to share them online if he called the police. They left without taking cigarettes and alcohol, and Daniel was relieved because if they had stolen alcohol, etc., he might have been fired on his first day. Daniel called his mom to check on her and asked her how she was doing. She said everything was fine. She told him she was just out for a walk, but she was collecting spare boxes from stores to make extra money to send his son. The next day, when Daniel woke up in his strong and charming body, he felt great. He was excited to spend the whole day in this new body. At school, all the girls were again amazed by his good looks. But when Daniel entered the classroom, he saw Zach and the other bullies laughing and talking about last night. One of the bullies showed Zoe pictures of the pig Daniel they beat at the store. Zoe cheered and told Daniel to watch the videos. Daniel realized they were talking about him and felt upset knowing they were mocking him. Zach hoped the pictures would scare Daniel and he would stay away from Mira. When Daniel heard that they were planning to show his private pictures, he clenched his fists but refused to look at them. Zach was pleased by Daniel's reaction, but Mira looked a bit hurt as she didn't like Zach fighting and bullying all the time. Zach and the others started making fun of the pig Daniel's mother, calling her names and saying she should have abandoned him. Daniel couldn't take it anymore and told them not to bring someone's mother into it. Zach took this as an insult and kicked the table, challenging Daniel for a fight. Students from different classes gathered, excited to see the fight. Daniel was nervous, remembering the previous night's beating. Just then, Zach threw a punch, but Jay, a wealthy student, grabbed Zach's wrist. Jay had never stood up to such bullies before, but instead, He always remained silent, even if someone talked to him, so everyone was surprised that he interfered. Zach was angry, and he threw another punch at Daniel's face. Daniel, who had been bullied at his old school, was used to such fights, and because of his experience, his eyes could track the punches, but his fat body could never move fast enough to avoid them. But this time it was different, as his new body was much more faster and can dodge easily. The whole class was shocked because no one had ever dodged Zach's punches before. Zach was famous for his powerful punches, and he was known to easily dominate almost anyone who crossed his path from kindergarten to this time. But now, Daniel was unfazed by Zach's continuous punches. Meanwhile, in Daniel's mind, all the names Zach's friends had called his mother and the insults they had directed at her were flashbacked. Daniel remembered that Logan from his old school had once punched him while showing others how to throw the first punch. Logan told everyone to aim for the solar plexus, which is the area just below the chest. So, Daniel tried the same thing and hit Zach in that spot. Zach fell to the ground and struggled to breathe. Everyone was amazed. They thought that Daniel was only fast and could just dodge punches, but now his unexpected strength impressed everyone. Zach was very angry when he saw how amazed Mira was by Daniel's skills. Daniel, who was still surprised by his strength, didn't know his new body could move like that. He felt bad for Zach, knowing how embarrassing it must be to lose in front of everyone. Later, in the bathroom, Jay overheard Zach's friends planning to attack Daniel after school. They wanted to gang up on him so he wouldn't be able to escape. Jay decided to step in. He quickly took down all the bullies by himself. Then, Jiho Park walked in. He saw Jay leaving the bathroom. When Jiho opened a stall to pee, he saw all of Zach's friends lying in pain. Jiho was shocked because Jay had never looked so tough before. News about Zach and Daniel's fight spread fast through the school. Now, everyone knew about Daniel, including key students like Vin Jin and Eli Jang. That night, as Daniel returned to his chubby body, he thought about what happened during the day. He realized that if he'd been in this chubby body at school, he would have been badly beaten. While working at the store, he noticed people staring at him because of his bad appearance. Determined to change, Daniel decided to lose weight and started doing push-ups. As Daniel was struggling with push-ups, a pretty girl walked into the store and noticed him on the floor. Feeling embarrassed, Daniel thought he made a very bad impression by looking like a mess. But to his surprise, the girl was very nice. She bought him a drink, thinking that he must be tired from working out. After she left, Daniel felt a warm, happy feeling. It was nice to get such unexpected kindness from someone, especially since his chubby body wasn't used to it. Zach's friends were walking together and talking about what happened at school. Zach's friends talked about how Jay had hit them in the bathroom. They knew if everyone found out, no one would be scared of them anymore. One friend said Jiho Park had seen everything, so they decided they needed to make sure Jiho wouldn't tell anyone. They called Jiho and told him to come right away. Worried about getting in trouble for being late, Jiho hurried over. When he got there, one of Zach's friends made him steal a charger from a nearby store. Jiho said stealing was wrong, but Zach's friend threatened him and made him take the charger right away. Jiho walked into the store where Daniel worked. As soon as he saw Daniel, Jiho could tell that Daniel had been bullied too. Daniel noticed that Jiho looked worried and asked if he needed help. Jiho asked about chargers, and Daniel showed him where they were. Jiho felt nervous as he walked towards the chargers. Zach's friends had threatened to hurt him if he didn't steal one. Scared, Jiho hid a charger under his shirt and ran out of the store. Daniel was surprised but ran after him right away. Jiho ran as fast as he could until he reached a dark alley where Zach's friends were waiting. Just as he thought he might be safe, Daniel caught up and arrived too. Now, Zach's friends had both Jiho and Daniel trapped. To make things worse, they forced Jiho and Daniel to fight each other for their amusement. If they didn't, Zach's friends threatened to post embarrassing pictures of them online. Jiho and Daniel looked at each other, scared and worried, with no way out of this awful situation. But they didn't start fighting, so Zach's friend told Jiho that if he won, he would be free from serving them. Excited, Jiho began kicking and slapping Daniel's face, but Daniel didn't move. Understanding how tough it is to be bullied, he decided to let Jiho win. hoping it would give him the freedom he had been dreaming of. From far away, Vasco saw what was happening and decided to help. He walked over, hit Zach's friend, and told them to stop bullying people. Vasco then told Daniel and Jiho they should get stronger to protect themselves. Jiho realized why people said Vasco was good at helping kids who were being bullied. The next day at school, Daniel, with his strong and fit body, caught the attention of every girl around him. From a distance, he saw Jiho and asked if they could eat lunch together. Jiho was surprised that someone as handsome as Daniel would want to be friendly with him. Meanwhile, Zach and his friends were shocked by this. Zach thought Daniel was just pretending to be nice to become popular. As Zach heard people talking about the fight, he saw Vin Jin laughing at him for losing. Just then, Vasco walked into the cafeteria. Daniel remembered how Vasco helped him and Jiho last night. He wanted to say hello, but Vasco didn't recognize him because Vasco helped him while he was in his chubby body. Vasco's friend told him that Daniel was the new popular kid who beat Zach in a fight. When Vasco saw Daniel with Jiho, he thought Daniel was just another bully. Vasco squeezed Daniel's shoulder hard and warned him not to cause trouble, and that being good-looking wouldn't protect him. Daniel felt like his shoulder might break. Everyone was surprised because Vasco's grip was so strong that nobody could get away. But then, Daniel calmly moved Vasco's hand away and said Vasco had made a mistake. Vasco thought Daniel was trying to start a fight in front of everyone, which would be embarrassing for his Burn Knuckles crew. But Vasco's friend stepped in and tried to calm things down. Vasco backed off and told Jiho not to trust people like Daniel. Jiho realized Vasco was confusing Daniel with other bullies at school. In the bathroom, Zach's friends talked about what had happened and decided to team up with Daniel since he stood up to Vasco. They also remembered they still needed to make up with Zach after the fight, so they decided to take action. In class, Zach's friends asked Daniel if he wanted to be their friend. Daniel, who had never had many friends at his old school, felt like he was living a dream. They invited him to hang out at a restaurant that night. Daniel thought it might be fun, so he agreed. He was very excited because he had always felt lonely because of his fat appearance. At night, Zach's friends shared the address with Daniel. As Daniel went there, he imagined the restaurant would be a nice place where they could all have fun. But when he arrived, he saw the place was in a dark alley and looked a bit strange. Even so, he gathered his courage and decided to go inside, eager to spend time with his new friends. When Daniel walked into the cabin, he was surprised to see Zach's friends smoking cigarettes and a bunch of drinks on the table. To his shock, Zach and Zoe were there too. Zach's friends told Daniel to sit next to Zach because they wanted him to join their group. Zach was already annoyed that Daniel was there. Zach's friends offered Daniel a drink, but he thought it was strange to see school kids drinking like that, since he had never done it before. He politely said he doesn't drink. Everyone was surprised. Zach, looking annoyed, took a drink himself. One of Zach's friends asked where Daniel lived. Daniel casually said he lived with a school dropout who works night shifts. Zach's friends immediately thought Daniel's roommate might be a gangster and that Daniel had strong backup. Suddenly, the restaurant owner, an older lady, came over and seemed very interested in Daniel. She started giving him suggestive looks and asked if he wanted more to eat. Zoe got angry and started competing with the lady for Daniel's attention. Everyone at the table looked annoyed. Daniel, not used to this kind of attention, felt nervous and uncomfortable. Meanwhile, Zach kept drinking shot after shot. Suddenly, he collapsed onto the table. Daniel and Zach's friends were shocked because Zach had been drinking a lot since dinner started. Out of nowhere, Zach lifted his head and told Daniel he liked him and wanted to be friends. Drunk and acting silly, Zach put his arm around Daniel and spoke with a slur. Zach's friends knew this was just drunk talk and ignored it, but Daniel felt very anxious. Then, Zoe offered Daniel some water, but secretly poured alcohol into his glass instead. When Daniel accidentally drank it, he quickly spat it out, feeling very embarrassed because he thought drinking was bad. Meanwhile, a group of guys at a nearby table were annoyed by Zach's friends being so loud. They decided to teach them a lesson, and one of the guys grabbed Zach's friend by the neck. Daniel, who had never drunk alcohol before, started feeling dizzy from the drink he accidentally swallowed. Even though he felt woozy, he stopped the guy who was about to hit Zach's friend by grabbing his hand. Zach's friends suddenly thought Daniel could be their fighter, but instead, Daniel, drunk and frustrated, scolded Zach's friends for being noisy and always bullying others. Suddenly, he demanded the phone from one of Zach's friends and crushed it with one hand because that phone had dirty pics of his chubby body and other boys who got bullied. Zach's friends were shocked and didn't expect Daniel to act like that. Next, Daniel thought Zach's friends should apologize to the group that came over to fight. Daniel tried to apologize himself, but the guys were intimidated by his tall and muscular build and backed off. To lighten the mood, Daniel reached for a drink to offer them. As he leaned over, the bottle accidentally broke on the table. However, Zach's friends started to think Daniel had deliberately created a dangerous weapon and began seeing him as a clever troublemaker. The other group left the restaurant, but not before threatening Zach's friends, saying they would get back at them for the embarrassment. Meanwhile, Zach's friends kept praising Daniel for standing up to the group and protecting them, but Daniel was upset and told them to stop. He found it strange that they were so proud of fighting and drinking. Daniel made it clear he didn't want to be involved with their activities anymore. As Daniel was shouting, he felt thirsty and took a sip from his glass, not realizing it still had alcohol in it. The alcohol quickly made him drowsy, and he fainted, falling into a deep sleep right there. When he woke up, he was in his other body that had been asleep in his room all day. He realized that his muscular body must have passed out at the restaurant because of the alcohol, causing him to switch to this body. The only way he knew to switch back was by falling asleep, so Daniel tried to force himself to sleep again. But after an hour of sleep, he was still stuck in his fat body and couldn't switch back. Daniel was shocked, as normally, sleep was the key to switching between the two bodies, but it wasn't working this time. Determined to find out what was going on, Daniel decided to go to the restaurant and check on his other body. After getting dressed quickly, Daniel rushed back to the restaurant where Zach's friends and his muscular body were. When Daniel arrived there, he felt relieved to see his other body sleeping on the floor. However, Zach's friends, who were already worried, recognized him as the night shift worker from the convenience store. They were confused and asked him why he was there. Caught off guard and panicking, Daniel said he was there to pick up the sleeping guy, his muscular body, because his roommate had told him to. Zach and his friends felt sorry for him, thinking he was just a servant for that gangster roommate. They told him they'd be nicer to him from now on, believing he had a hard life because of that roommate. Zach told the chubby Daniel that he would teach him how to throw a punch so he could stand up for himself. They all went to a punching machine. Daniel had a hard time carrying his unconscious, muscular body on his back. Zach carefully explained how to punch properly, and then showed Daniel by throwing a punch himself. Zach's punch set a new high score on the machine. Feeling sick from all the drinking, Zach and his friends decided to go home, and Zoe left too. Now alone with his sleeping body, Daniel decided to try Zach's punching technique. He carefully followed all of Zach's steps and took a swing at the punching bag, but he missed completely. After picking up his muscular body again, Daniel thought maybe punching just wasn't for him. Vasco was watching Daniel from a distance. Vasco's friends encouraged him to try the punching machine. Vasco gathered all his strength, took a deep breath, and threw a punch at the machine. He set a new high score with his powerful hit, but when Vasco looked at it, he saw that the punching bag was already torn from Daniel's earlier attempt. Noticing something odd about the chubby, awkward Daniel, so Vasco became curious. Back at home, Daniel waited for his muscular body to wake up from the effects of the alcohol. So, after a few hours, he successfully shifted back into the second body. He discovered something new about the body swapping. He couldn't switch between bodies if one of them was unconscious. Both bodies needed to be fully recovered for the switch to work.